Often you'll hear people say that they have a book that got them through a particular time in their life, a hard time in their life, and help them cope or help them solve certain problems in their life or just get through it and just cope with the difficulties of the situation. And of course, high school is a difficult time for a lot of people, as it was for me. And yeah, to be honest, it wasn't difficult for me because of the school. The school itself was probably the best institution I've ever been to. I felt very respected and safe in those confines, but the people I hung out with were absolutely horrible. They were just piece of shit people. Not all of them, not to the full extent they could be, but there were certainly a couple of people in there that had a strong influence on everybody, and that made the whole experience of being their friend shitty. And of course, me being the problematic teenager that I was didn't help. So it's not all on them, of course. Anyway, so yeah, you'll hear people say often that, oh, this book got me through that time in my life, and often it's a book that maybe teaches you how to deal with certain situations and stuff. It can be a self-help book, it can be a novel or anything, but it usually has like stories that act as teachings. Well, for me, the book that got me through high school is this little book. It's, I don't know how many pages it is. It doesn't even say how many pages it is. It's that small. It's just entitled James Elroy Flecker. It's a poetry book with poems by, well, James Elroy Flecker. And contrary to most stories about, oh, this book got me through that time in my life, this book contains absolutely no life teachings, no educational stories about how to deal with life. It's just filled with beautiful, absolutely beautiful imagery. And that's what I absolutely love about this little book. Just hold it up so you can see it a bit better. Actually, it's an interesting story about how I came to possess this. I was looking through some of my father's old books and kind of held up, semi-opened a poetry book, a Greek poetry book by a rather well-known Greek surrealist poet. And this just fell out of that. It just fell out. And of course, I lay aside the Greek book and just immersed myself amazingly into this thing. So, yeah, I don't know how he came to possess it. He doesn't even remember. Maybe through his American relatives. That is a possibility. Anyway, and as I said, yes, it's just filled with absolutely beautiful poetic imagery and just musical poetry, musically flowing poetry. And, you know, during breaks, I just used to sit in a corner and in like the yard, the schoolyard. Everybody was flowing around and talking, whatever, and I would just read this. And every moment when I read this was magical. Elements, the surrounding elements like soft breezes in the shadows of a tree were just transformed into an absolutely magical cinematographical experience just by reading this little book. And yeah, as I said, I really just, it's not filled with any kind of educational stories or teachings. I don't like that about books at all. And I don't think the best way for you to cope with difficult situations is to read about how to deal with them. I think it's just to get lost in something beautiful. At least that's how it works for me. So I want to read you maybe a couple of poems out of this. The most well-known poem that is in this book is The Golden Journey to Samarkand. It's a rather well-known, I'd say, poem of the English language. But what I want to read you is my favorite poem called Yasmin. The interesting thing is, the book has like regular pages. You can just sift through them and read like this. They're both printed this way, but the poem Yasmin is in the center of the book, and it's like this. and so you'd have to hold it this way to read it, and not this way. And the design of the pages is absolutely beautiful, as you can see. So I'm going to read you the poem. It's not really that long. Yasmin. How splendid in the morning glows the lily, with what grace he throws his supplication to the rose. Do roses nod the head, Yasmin? But when the silver dove descends, I find the little flower of friends, whose very name that sweetly ends, I say when I have said, Yasmin. The morning light is clear and cold, I dare not in that light behold a whiter light, a deeper gold, a glory too far shed, Yasmin. But when the deep red eye of day is level with the lone highway, and some to Mecca turn to pray, and I toward thy bed, Yasmin, or when the wind beneath the moon is drifting like a solar swoon, and harping planets talk love's tune with milky wings outspread, Yasmin, shower down thy love, O burning bright, for one night or the other night will come the gardener in white, and gathered flowers are dead, Yasmin. Yeah, this is one of my favorite poems. Maybe my favorite poem. You know, when I try to think of my favorite poem, I always forget about Flecker. I don't know why. I'm mentally searching through Poe, and I always forget that there's Flecker. I don't know, but probably this is my favorite poem. And there are other poems in here. One is entitled To a Poet 1,000 Years Hence. And, you know, I always like to amuse myself by imagining that somehow this was meant for me, although obviously I'm not 1,000 years after Flecker. But you know, the very cinematographical way in which I found this book, all this created a nice narrative. Yeah, maybe I'll read you a couple of lines from this one. Wait a minute. Yeah. O friend unseen, unborn, unknown, student of our sweet English tongue, read out my words at night alone. I was a poet, I was young. You know, this whole idea of student of our sweet English tongue, that really resonated with me, because I'm a huge Anglophile, and I really adore the English language, and I've always had those stupid uneducated Greeks who are like, oh, English is just a 500-word language, it's nothing, blah blah blah, and they're all like so excited with ancient Greek, and it's just stupid narrative that really comes from nowhere. English, I have found, is the most beautifully flowing language that at least I've come across until now. Yeah. Anyway, so I really wanted to read this. I'll read you 4 lines from another poem, strangely not entitled, which goes like this. A ship, an isle, a sickle moon, with few but with how splendid stars, the mirrors of the sea are strewn between their silver bars. It's beautiful. Actually, I'm going to read you the whole thing. An isle beside an isle she lay, the pale ship anchored in the bay, while in the young moon's port of gold a starship, as the mirrors told, put forth its great and lonely light to the unreflecting ocean night. And still a ship upon her seas, the isle and the island cypresses, went sailing on without the gale, and still there moved the moon so pale, a crescent ship without a sail. It's Flecker's poetry is just absolutely beautiful. It's just, I'd say, you know, pure, unadulterated, lightweight, but heavy in beauty aestheticism. There's no other way to describe it. So I'm going to close this video by the last poem in the book, entitled Tenebris Interlucentum, in Latin. I'm not entirely sure how I would translate that anyway. So, Tenebris Interlucentum. A linnet who had lost her way sung on a blackened bow in hell, till all the ghosts remembered well the trees, the wind, the golden day. At last they knew that they had died when they had music in that land, and someone there stole forth a hand to draw a brother to his side. It's beautiful. Anyway, guys, I hope you'll forgive me this totally out of the ordinary type of video. Just, you know, yesterday I was having a tough day at the university. Not a bad day, just a demanding day and an exhausting day. I felt kind of tired. and this book just came to my mind. Instantly felt better. So I hope you enjoyed the poems, and have a nice day, guys.